Welcome back to our continuing coverage of Prime Minister Narendra Modi in the United States of America. The Prime Minister met the US Vice President Kamala Harris at the Eisenhower Building in Washington, D.C. Now, there was a joint statement by both the leaders and they noted strong bilateral relations between India and the United States of America. Kamala Harris lauded India's vaccine drive, inoculating more than 10 million people a day. Added, both nations will fight the pandemic together. She also welcomed India's move to resume export of vaccine. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, on the other hand, thanked the US Vice President for helping during the second wave. He said the 4 million strong Indian diaspora acts as a bridge between the two countries and reminded Kamala Harris about shared values and interests of India and the United States of America. The Prime Minister sought America's cooperation in space, science and technology. Concluding the meet, Prime Minister Narendra Modi invited the US Vice President to visit her Indian roots. Kamala Harris also gave a tour to the Prime Minister of the iconic Eisenhower Tower after the meeting.
एक्सेलेंसी, आपका उपराष्ट्रपति के नाते चुने जाना अपने आप में एक बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण घटना है, ऐतिहासिक घटना है और आप पूरे विश्व के में बहुत से लोगों के लिए प्रेरणा स्रोत है। मुझे पूरा विश्वास है कि राष्ट्रपति बाइडेन और आपके नेतृत्व में हमारे संबंध नई ऊंचाई हासिल करेंगे। एक्सेलेंसी, आपकी ये विजय यात्रा ऐतिहासिक है। भारत के लोग भी चाहेंगे कि भारत में आपकी इस ऐतिहासिक विजय यात्रा को सम्मानित करें, आपका स्वागत करें। इसलिए मैं आपको विशेष रूप से भारत आने का निमंत्रण देता हूं।
Outside of South Asia for at least the last 16 months, on behalf of the President and myself, we are honored to welcome you for this visit. India, of course, is a very important partner to the United States. Throughout our history, our nations have worked together, have stood together to make our world a safer and stronger world. Mr. Prime Minister, when you and I last spoke in June, we talked about how our world is more interconnected and interdependent than ever before. And the challenges that we face today have highlighted that fact, be it COVID-19, the climate crisis, and the importance of our shared belief in a free and open Indo-Pacific region.
And ahead of the crucial Quad Summit, Prime Minister Narendra Modi met the Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison. Prime Minister Modi held a standalone bilateral meeting with his Australian counterpart, and he termed it as comprehensive strategic partnership with Australia. In this meeting, the Prime Minister discussed a wide range of subjects aimed at deepening economic and people-to-people ties between the people of India and Australia. Also an agenda were regional and global developments in the area related to trade, defense, clean energy and COVID-19. National Security Advisor Ajit Doval and External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar were also a part of this meeting. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is down to business in Washington, D.C. ahead of his key meet with US Vice President Kamala Harris. The Prime Minister held one-on-one talks with Qualcomm CEO Cristiano Amon. Qualcomm creates semiconductors, software and provides services related to wireless technology. Amon discussed investment opportunities in telecommunications and electronics sector in India with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Extremely crucial being 5G technology in India. Next in schedule was the meeting with Adobe's Shantanu Narayan, described as a friend of India. Adobe is a software giant and is in talks for a digital push in the country. Prime Minister Modi also met the CEO of First Solar, Mark Widmer. Both Prime Minister and the CEO of First Solar talked about India's giant renewable energy targets and the role the two could play to ensure that India achieves those targets. Now, there is an eye to set up manufacturing facilities in India. The two discussed India's renewable energy landscape and the country's target to generate 450 gigawatts electricity from renewable source by 2030. Weidmer's meet was followed by Prime Minister's one-on-one with General Atomics CEO Vivek Lal. General Atomics is the top military drone maker and could potentially partner with India, especially when it comes to military drones for the Army, Navy and the Air Force, and of course civil drones when you talk about India's new drone policy. The Prime Minister also met Stephen Schwarzman, CEO of leading investment firm Blackstone, which is planning to expand operations in India.
We talk about many things that are very relevant, I think, to what we think about the future of technology. We talk about the 5G and acceleration of 5G. We're talking about incredible opportunity to advance the industry not only domestically in India, but India as an export of technology as we think about the digital transformation enabled by 5G combined with the design in India.
We talked about was, continued investment in innovation, because he certainly believes that technology is the way to help move things forward. Specifically, we talked about artificial intelligence and what might happen with artificial intelligence. We talked about creativity, the importance of creativity and how media, the ever-changing nature of media. We talked about online and the importance of startups. And in addition to that, we just talked about how, companies like Adobe can do more in India.
So it was an outstanding meeting to meet with the Prime Minister individually this morning. So there are a lot of potential areas of collaboration that we are in discussions with. I think writ large, U.S. companies and many of my colleagues at U.S. companies see India as a very promising destination from a two-way standpoint, not only technologies and investments in, but coming back to the U.S. So I think it's a win-win. The policies and reforms that have been put in place by both countries, I think, benefit both countries, and that is why this is a sustainable model.
First, it was an honor to have a chance to speak with him. Clearly, with his leadership and what he's done to create a really strong balance between industrial policy as well as trade policy, makes it an ideal opportunity for companies like First Solar to establish manufacturing in India. And his commitment to ensuring domestic capabilities and ensuring his long-term climate goals and objectives with focus on energy independence and security, I think the alignment of what he's trying to accomplish couldn't be better for companies that are looking to manufacture in India. And I think the enablement of an environment that is pro-business is just more opportunity for us to be successful and to help India achieve its climate goals.
Well, I had a very good meeting with the Prime Minister. I told him that Blackstone had already invested $60 billion US in assets in India, and over the next 5 years, we're planning another $40 billion of assets. We're one of the 10 largest companies in India. So he expressed his appreciation and talked about the new programs that were going on, including selling assets for the country, which I told him I thought was a very good idea.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi's 7th visit to the United States of America kicked off on Thursday. He will be meeting US President Joe Biden on Friday. This is the third US President that Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be meeting as Prime Minister of India. The Prime Minister believes in adding a personal touch during his interactions with leaders of the world's oldest democracy. Will the Biden administration, which has kept human rights and free speech at the forefront of its agenda, give and return a similar warm welcome to Prime Minister Narendra Modi?
If there's one place Prime Minister Narendra Modi feels at home outside India, it would be the United States. In the 7 years he's been the Prime Minister, this is his 7th visit to the country. And over this period, he has interacted with 3 presidents, Joe Biden, the latest. Indo-US relations under Modi are also about the personal touch he brings to the negotiating table. President Barack Obama, for instance, is friend Barack.
मैं राष्ट्रपति और मेरे परम मित्र ओबामा का बहुत बहुत आभारी हूँ.
A friend to whom he personally served tea. In Donald Trump, Prime Minister Modi found another friend and ally. India carried out surgical strikes in POK after the Uri terror attack and later launched airstrikes on Jaish-e-Mohammed terror camps deep inside Pakistan in Balakot. The US under Trump stood with New Delhi. There were missteps as well, the biggest letdown being edged out of the peace talks in Afghanistan. The camaraderie, however, was too good to believe. It led Prime Minister Modi to Houston, where he, many felt, openly endorsed Trump for a second term.
The words of candidate Trump, अब की बार ट्रम्प सरकार.
They even took out a victory lap in front of a thrilled diaspora. On many issues, the Biden administration may take a different line from Trump's. If Trump was silent when India abrogated Article 370 in Jammu and Kashmir, Biden and his Democrat colleagues during the presidential campaign had criticized the decision, much to our discomfort. But much has happened since then. The global economy is shaky after the worst humanitarian crisis since the World War. The Taliban is back in Afghanistan, posing an even bigger terror threat to the world. Pakistan continues its old game of blackmail diplomacy. The Chinese are spreading their influence aggressively. The world is no more unipolar. There are fears of another Cold War.
We're not seeking, say it again, we are not seeking a new Cold War or a world divided into rigid blocs. The United States is ready to work with any nation that steps up and pursues peaceful resolution to shared challenges, even if we have intense disagreements in other areas.
Day 2 is going to be about the big Quad in-person summit meeting between and among the Quad leaders and the bilateral between President Biden and Prime Minister Narendra Modi, where the focus is going to be Afghanistan, counter China, resilient supply chains, as also post-COVID recovery and economic cooperation. With video journalist Yukendra Singh in Washington DC, Geeta Mohan for India Today.
The world is watching the rise of the Quad in the face of Chinese and Taliban threat. Leaders of India, the United States of America, Australia and Japan will meet for the first time in person for the Quad summit. Now, ahead of this crucial meeting, Prime Minister Narendra Modi held one-on-one meetings with his Australian and Japanese counterparts.
The exclusive club of 4 of the world's top leaders. For the first time, all the Quad leaders sitting across the table. President Biden, Prime Minister Modi, the Australian and Japanese premiers meet on Friday to brainstorm on global and regional issues. The focus is the Indo-Pacific, but the summit being held in an eventful year will discuss the pandemic response, particularly strengthening the vaccine supply chain, along with climate change and education.
Primarily, the focus is going to be how to ensure that China and Chinese aggression is contained in the entire Indo-Pacific region. There are many areas that will be covered when it comes to alliances, but also the focus will remain counter-terrorism, post-COVID recovery, is also supply chain resilience. These are very important aspects, but terrorism and the situation in Afghanistan certainly are going to be key.
And 3 hours before the 4 leaders meet, the Prime Minister will hold his first bilateral meeting with President Biden. The summit in Washington will be closely monitored 11,000 kilometers away in Beijing. The quadrilateral grouping aims at countering the growing Chinese aggression in the Indo-Pacific region. Quad's target is a free and open Indo-Pacific, unconstrained by coercion. It's an informal strategic dialogue between four like-minded nations to negate China's expansionism. The first in-person summit of the Quad comes at an important time, with the Indo-Pacific undergoing a geopolitical churn. And with Biden taking the lead in hosting it, the United States is signaling its resolve to defend its interest in the Indo-Pacific. With Geeta Mohan in Washington, D.C., Bureau Report, India Today.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi is in the United States of America to engage directly with the US President Joe Biden. This is their first in-person summit level. Now, given the trajectory of the India-US ties in recent decades, all bilateral engagements between the two nations come with a sense of great anticipation. Here is how India's relationship with the United States has evolved under Prime Minister Narendra Modi's leadership.
It was 2014, and fresh from a landslide victory in the Lok Sabha elections, Prime Minister Narendra Modi embarked on a historic trip to the US. The world's oldest democracy, which once denied him a visa, was now according a red carpet welcome. The world got a glimpse of Modi euphoria at the Madison Square Garden in New York. Modi, Modi chants reverberated in the jam-packed venue. The diaspora gushed at the politician who was challenging the obsolete West stereotype of India as the land of snake charmers.
मैंने कहा हमारे पूर्वज तो सांप के साथ खेलते थे, लेकिन हम माउस के साथ खेलते हैं.
The PM roaring to unveil a new India vision.
मेरी कोशिश यह है कि विकास एक जन आंदोलन बने. 125 करोड़ देशवासी एक विकास के जन आंदोलन का हिस्सा बने. सारी दुनिया के लोग अमेरिका में आकर के बसे हैं और भारत के लोग सारी दुनिया में जाकर के बसे हैं.
Prime Minister of the Republic of India.
After Madison Square, Prime Minister Modi enthralled surging crowds at the New York Central Park. Standing next to Hollywood star Hugh Jackman at the Global Citizen Festival, Modi quoted this famous line from the Star Wars in a youth outreach.
May the force be with you.
Modi met then US President Barack Obama, setting the foundation of a tie that continued to flourish in the years that followed.
We have so much in common, it is critical for us to continue to deepen and broaden the existing framework of partnership and friendship that already exists.
The very next year, it was Modi playing host to the Obama couple. Sealed with warm hugs upon touchdown in Delhi. The US President was the chief guest in the Republic Day celebrations. President Obama sampled the legendary chaiwala when Modi personally served Bonomi with a piping hot cup of tea. Later in 2015, Prime Minister Modi travelled to the US again for huddle with members of global business powerhouses, with the likes of Mike Bloomberg in attendance. But it was a meeting with Facebook co-founder Mark Zuckerberg where Modi became emotional, talking about his mother, childhood struggle and humble family origins.
मैं बहुत गरीब परिवार से हूँ. आप जानते हैं मैं रेलवे स्टेशन पे चाय बेचता था. हमारे पिताजी तो रहे नहीं हैं. माता जी है, 90 साल से भी ज़्यादा उम्र है, आज भी अपने सारे काम खुद करती हैं।
By this time, Modi's camaraderie with Obama was paying off handsome dividends. During Modi's 2016 US trip, Washington offered a forceful backing for India in the exclusive nuclear suppliers group.
मैं राष्ट्रपति और मेरे परम मित्र ओबामा का बहुत बहुत आभारी हूं कि फिर एक बार हमें आज मिलने का अवसर मिला है। कई विषयों पर हमने बातचीत की है, लेकिन डिप्लोमेटिक दृष्टि से उसकी जितनी ताकत है उतनी उसकी दोस्ताना स्वरूप में भी ताकत है।
It was 2017 and the Democrats were trumped in presidential polls. But India's ties with the US were only getting stronger. Modi struck a personal rapport with President Trump. The warm embraces kept coming, signaling the start of another enduring friendship and mutual admiration. Trump and the first family got an invite to visit their new friend in India. Modi focused on terror with the surgical strike on Pakistan terror factories, finding a crucial mention in his diaspora address in Virginia. The year was 2019, and Modi had just led BJP to yet another historic victory in the Lok Sabha elections. Fresh with a resounding mandate, Modi resumed his US outreach. With the iconic Howdy Modi event at Houston's NRG Stadium. An unparalleled bromance with Trump. Touching new heights with the Ab Ki Baar Trump Sarkar moment.
अब की बार ट्रम्प सरकार।
And a victory lap with Trump at the last leg of the marquee event, with diaspora cheering on. The bonhomie at Howdy Modi was preceded by the viral fist bump moment at G7 summit in France. Trump marked the last year of his presidency with a memorable trip to India, making it even special by visiting Prime Minister Modi's home state, Gujarat. The Namoste Trump event at Motera Stadium, Ahmedabad, witnessed Modi and Trump carving their dosti in golden letters before a capacity crowd. Trump and his wife Melania even visited Mahatma Gandhi's Sabarmati Ashram, with Modi playing the host. Modi's successive US trips recasting Indo-American ties, turning them from occasional adversaries to natural allies. Bureau Report, India Today.
Time now for us to slip into a quick break. News and updates continue on the other side. Stay with us.